Hi, and welcome to this last episode of free VSTs in this series. This is number 10. So 10 weeks with free VSTs, and what a day to end this with one of my favorite free VST called Vital. And there is actually 3 versions that you can get. The free one, you'll get the exact same as the paid one. The only thing is that with the paid one, you get more presets and more wavetables, and then we have this feature called text to speech that you have infinity when you have the paid version. If you have the free one, I believe it's 4 or 5 per 24 hours you have that you can use. But I'll show you what that means later on. So let's open Vital, and this is what you'll get. It will look like this when you open it up. So what is Vital? Vital is a wavetable synthesizer with 3 oscillators and a noise generator. Or not a noise generator, sorry, it's a sampler. Because it's not just dived in to noises, even though I use it mostly for noises. Right now we're only activating one of the oscillators that you see up here. So oscillator 1, 2, 3, and then the sampler down here. Cool. The sampler here, or the oscillator here, we have a level. So right now it's just a sine wave. You can see if we click down on this, we can see a 3D. We can scan the wavetable. We have what's called SP. But this is the overtones we can actually see here of the sample, or the audio file. Here we have you can see it's just a sine wave, then we can see it more like that when you do that. So right now, we have it in the low, just a regular sine wave. We have level. We can pan them, and we have tones here that goes in semitones. Then we go over here to fine tune. If we double click on a parameter, it will reset. We can see that when we have that, it's called basic shapes, and basic shapes are just the regular. Right now it's fluent that will go through that. I've set mine to do that, otherwise it will just jump between like a regular synthesizer. But I like that it's kind of fluent when you scan through the wavetable. We also have in here a wavetable, what do you call it? A wavetable drawing. We can draw your own wavetables, and we can just kind of morph this into whatever we want, and then we can morph between these if we would like to. I'm not going too much into that. Over here we have the unison part, and underneath that we can do different types of modulation to the sound wave. On this over here we have, so we can do FM, but again it's misleading because it's not real FM. It is instead of frequency modulation, we're doing phase modulation. So PM, it's actually PM, but they call it FM because that's what people are using now instead of real FM. The difference between real FM modulation and phase modulation is that it's not pitching upwards and downwards, so it's a little more musical and what we know today as we call FM sounds. We also have, so we can do ring modulation, and that's how we can kind of do that here. We can also format, quantize, and bend and squeeze, pulse, and all that stuff in here. We can reverse the phase, and yeah. So that's the oscillator that kind of produced the sound. So if we take a saw. We have the unison here. If we set the detune to 0, we can stack it up to 16 voices per oscillator. And then if you can hear, and if we take the randomization of where it starts, so right now it will start here all the time. So you can hear it's very steady compared to when it's 100%. You can see it kind of starts in different places of the wave file. So it depends on what you're going for. If you're going for this hammer bass that has this big transient in the start, maybe you don't want the random phase on that. But if we want to detune this, we can see here, up here, that when we do this, it will kind of spread out the different voices stereo-wise as well, and also pitch-wise. But in here, we can kind of stretch, if we want to, have them. And we can kind of open it up. So it's pretty cool that we can make that unison thing here. Let's take that off. So we just have that. So we have different, I'm not gonna show everything, but if we're gonna take one of my favorite is smear. And if we go down here, we can kind of get it to be a 0, then we don't have anything. But let's say we would like to have this envelope, or envelope 2, because we actually, you can see there's 3 envelopes, but if I take envelope 3 and add to that, envelope 4 would pop up. So we have 6 envelopes in total. We have 8 LFOs in total, and we have 4 random generators in total. So we can take the envelope and make that like just a fast little plug thing and add to the smear. We already did. And then when you hover over the modulation, we can say how much we want on that, because if we do that up here, we would lose the sound, because up here there's nothing, right? Oops. But now we can kind of, just with that sine wave, we can have that to be without a filter. We didn't even put a filter on yet. So it's pretty cool that we can do like that. We could also like make it a long attack, and like the decay, let's have that at 9 seconds. So we can make like this pad without. And let's say, okay, I like that pattern. I will modulate so the voices would come in slowly, and then also maybe this. Maybe we'll better do the 0 here and just take that off. Double click, just have 16 voices, so we have a lot going on, and then add that up to maybe here. So now it will be like. Maybe we want a release on that, so we have the sustain up, and then a small decay instead, and a bigger release, 4 seconds. So now we have a pad that. We need to have the envelope. This is the first envelope, is always an amp envelope, so we need to have that to be the release to be a little bit longer, about the 4 seconds with the other. Tail of that going in. So when we have this basic shape, we can also do the phase modulation, or from now on I will still call it FM so we don't get confused, because it says FM. So I'll take FM from oscillator 2, and I'll take that envelope to the same, so we'll get this more crazy sound. and then I'll turn that up, but the level is down because we want this to be a modulator, not the sound source. So it's going to modulate this up in here. And then I have this in 24 semitones upwards, so 2 octaves lighter. So if we hear it without anything, we can turn this off. We can hear just this high-pitched note. But when we do the modulation in here, and now you can see we modulate that up. Let's take that off just for now. So we have that tone now. And we can then modulate this with that until about here. And because this is a sine wave, we could modulate just with a here. Let's take envelope 2, drag that over to about 2 seconds, and some release on that. Whoops. Like that. And we can then switch from this and go upwards to scan our wavetable upwards. That's pretty cool that we didn't add the oscillator 2 to modulate oscillator 1 with the modulation from the envelopes, different envelopes we have. And then afterwards we have a LFO, and this envelope LFO is pretty cool. Let's take right now mine is set to 174 in BPM. Let's just have it on 120 to start with, so it's nice and easy. And then we could say, okay, oscillator 1 is set to filter 1. And this is also set to filter 1, but that doesn't matter because it's still just modulating the oscillator 1. So right now, we can then have the filter do stuff with the oscillator 1. But then let's just take LFO 1 and put down here and turn down. So now it's kind of running with that. But I would like to have it to be a little bit more rhythmical, so I'll just have that tool going. You can see when I have the pencil tool, I can just drag over here, and now we made that a fast little plug thing. If I hold shift while I'm holding that, I can kind of pinpoint these out a little bit more, and now it sounds like this. And let's say we wanted this to be faster, so I'm gonna take this grid to be 16th, and then the pencil tool, I'm gonna have that here and here. Maybe this one should be down here, and we'll do something like that. That's pretty cool. We can also say right now we have this pumping thing. We're going to turn it up a little bit. Add some resonance. We got a little more. But then we'll add filter 2 and add this as a serial. So one into that, and then we have to have that on filter. So we have this. We can still control what's happening afterwards. And then maybe we'll have this number 2 to go upwards, and then into a 2 bar. It will go up, but instead of a trigger that when I trigger, and it will just keep on going, we could set this as an envelope. So it's only starting when I'm pushing down, and then when I stop, it stops. So you see, it will be up until I let go of the keyboard. It will still be up until I let go, and then start here. So this is the first page. It's called voice. Over here, at the last thing I'll show on this page, we'll come back to this again, but we have macros that could be assigned to a lot of stuff. So we could say envelope 1 could be modulated by the envelope as well if we wanted that. But we can also say, I want this to be on level, I want this to be on the filter down here, I want this to be on the filter here. So whenever so now I can kind of control a lot of, it's like macros in Ableton as well. So I can control a lot of parameters just with one button. Just remove these again because I liked it before. Okay, cool. Now we can go into the effects. So it has a lot of cool effects. We have chorus, compressor, and the compressor is the OTT from the default. We have delay, distortion, and equalizer. One more filter, we can actually bypass stuff into here as well. Flanger, phaser, and a reverb. We could also say, I want this to be a sub, and send it directly to the effects. When it says effects, then it's the filter in effect we'll send it to. We can also send it directly out, so that will bypass all effects or anything, and it's just, so you can see if we have this on 24, and then we know maybe that's a little bit, 12 is fine, and then turn it up. So now we have a sub oscillator. Maybe it's too loud, so we'll mix it in. That, but I would have that on effects. So we have the chorus. But we have the compressor here, and I'm not gonna take the high down, so let's have a small delay on that, and let's have that on tempo dotted. And then instead of mono, let's set mid ping pong. We have these funky, crazy tempo shifts that we can do. We can take, so it's only at the top. We're gonna get the at distortion. And let's just take this one. So we add in a little bit more distortion. How we'll go. Set the equalizer to have a low pass. And then boost the tops. And then the filter here is just flanger if we don't want the filter, and we can rearrange them as we want. We have the reverb as well. Let's put that on and set this to 3-4 seconds. Mix down on that. Let's see here. Let's take this down to 1. Octave up. Then we have the matrix as a kind of regular matrix where we can fine-tune stuff we want to. reverse it if we want to, yeah, do the amount in more accurate ways, if we just need to do small modulation stuff. We have advanced, where we can set the unison. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But this was one sound just in here. So, some questions for now? Or are you in for the ride right now?
In for the ride.
In for the ride. Cool. So, yep. Mm-hmm. It depends on how many voices. If you have one voice, and you have one voice. If you have two voices, then one is played on each side of the speaker, and then there's nothing in the middle.
Okay.
So you have to have, like, two is a kind of a no-go. You want 1, 3, and then upwards, because you want one in the middle. Otherwise, they're kind of detuned to each other, and it just sounds awful. But if you could use it as a riser, if you wanted to have something like in a disharmonic riser going upwards, then you can use it in a way. But probably also, I won't see the only way, because there's always options to do stuff. But yeah. And by the way, if you can't hear it at home, the question was, like when you have one voice, you can see it's in the middle. We can zoom it in here. But when we have two voices, and they're kind of spread out, so they're going to be detuned on each side of the speaker. So there's no that's in tune in the middle. So they're both going to be detuned in the side. So you need to have 3. Now you can see when we bump it at a 3, we have the one in the middle. Was that the question?
Yeah, it makes sense, because I just think it's different from serum, maybe. Because I think
No, it should be pretty much the same, but you can then it looks here, it kind of looks more that it goes up and down in volume instead. But when you have 2, it's the same thing. There's 2, it's on the sides. Okay. If it's the same in serum. And we'll have that on 0 and 16. But it doesn't matter, because I'm gonna do initialize preset, start all over. So you can see that was one form of a pad we can play with. And you can see when I start mine, you can set yours to be save as default preset. So mine is turned on and have these basic effects like that. Let's go for a simple bass, but an FM bass. So we go really deep. So a really nice way is that if we go to the advanced, we can see our overtones on that, and we can see the waves here on an oscillator scope. And the same if we click up here, they will change, so you can actually see them up here, just here in a bigger one if you want to. But when you see, when we are adding the voices, let's say 3, look what happened to the wave file. We have what's called right now, it's phase cancellation each other, because the wave files go in and out of each other. So that's why you hear something in high volume and something where it disappears. But it's really nice, because if we go up higher in the tones, we'll get a faster. The higher we go, the faster the modulation would be. And we can use this to our advantage, because let's just say we want to FM this one. Oops, that was the wrong one. We don't want to get 3 to 2. You can do that, but then we get up to the higher territories in the frequency that kind of blows our ears up. But we can start to have this nice. If you hear a click, it's because the attack, you can see from the beginning, they choose to have it up here. So if it's down here, we have this awful click. So double click and it's still there, so we can go a little bit higher. And then we're gonna modulate this with envelope just to have that clicking sound, and then have that up here. And see it's too much, but when we're going down here, let's just zoom into that so we can actually see what we're working with. So we can kind of form how we would have the bass, and we can take that, if I hold shift in, it will go an octave up. If this is too much, we can bring down the detune a little bit, so it's still morphing, but we won't get that where it kind of disappears, the phase issue. Then afterwards, maybe we'll take that off so we have a steady sound just for hearing it. Then we can put the compressor on, but you can hear how much the high frequency then gets popped because it's a OTG, so we lose a little bit of punch, so we can add some with the low. And then we can add the distortion. We can try and take the distortion before the compressor, get another feel. And let's take this one and add to the filter, so we have filter. Depends on the flavor you're going for, if you want to have the slope on and off. Pretty nice bass sound to do this FM. And again, you could do, instead of having the FM on this, we could do triangle, and then do that, and then we could set this so it's sine waves, and it's very fast, so we need to have that. We get the wobble bass if we want to do that. Cool. Last sound I'm gonna show you is maybe I'm gonna show you two quick sounds that you can do that's kind of unique. Not for this, you can do it on a lot of different VSTs, or you just need a good comb filter, and this has the exceptional, really good comb filter. So if we take our oscillators off, and we have sampler, we have white noise, we'll take the level down and take envelope 2, just zoom up in, and have this very, very, very short envelope, and do on the level of the, so we have this hi-hat click almost. And then we'll route this into filter 1. We'll go in and say comb, and just take that, and then we'll add key track on, and double click on that. So now we'll have almost like a guitar thing, and let's have a longer. And then we can have a chorus, a delay, we'll just put put up the mix and feedback up a little bit. And some reverb, good lush reverb. Take the mix down a little bit and mix down on this. Pretty nice that we can do that, and we can make it more metallic by not as loud. We can turn up with a compressor. Take down. Add some distortion if we want to add that. And the cool thing is now we can change our comb filter to have this. We can have the next one. Other sounds, like having presets. And it's just with white noise. And the cool thing is also, if we want to make this more as a almost like a flute, we'll just rise the attack a little bit. That's shorter. Make these unique sounds with this really organic sounds. That's pretty cool because the comb filters really work for you. The last thing I'll show is that if we initialize the thing, and that's what I talked about in the beginning, is text to wavetable. So by default, when you have the free version, you have 5 per 24 hours you can do. I believe it's 5. 4 to 8. I believe it's 5. But we can right click on here. We can set text to wavetable. We can write in English which language we want. And let's just say Danish, even though this is it's going to be seen by a lot of in this world, the States or wherever. Sorry about that, but it will be in Danish. And it says, "Hey Lucas, are you all right?" Now it will sound like this to begin with. Okay, so what we will do is take a LFO to have a slope up and maybe have that to be a little bit slower, and then we'll scan the wavetable, and let's see, let's do, there we go, and now it will talk to us.
Hej Lucas, har du det godt?
Yeah, or we can have that go faster to begin with.
Hej Lucas, har du det godt? 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 Hej Lucas, har du det godt?
We could set the tempo up.
Hej Lucas, har du det godt?
So it's
Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas.
So let's say we can use just this one.
Hej Lucas, har du det godt?
Right, so we have that. But see, right now people will say, okay, cool, you can make it talk. Yeah, but it's only an oscillator. So we could put FM on that if we want to. We could put unison on that. Let's take 16 voices with detune of 10%. It will sound like,
Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas.
We could put the smear on if we want to.
Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas, har du det godt? Hej Lucas.
We could do the FM from oscillator 2.
Hej Lukas, har du det godt? Hej Lukas, har du...
Is it on the right?
Hej Lukas, har du det godt? Hej Lukas.
Let's do that up on 3 octave up.
Hej Lukas. Hej Lukas, har du det? Hej.
We could just have effects on it, compressor, chorus, delay, and a reverb. We could treat it as a normal oscillator if we want to. We can make rises out of spoken words. We could also just feed it if we want to have a nice pad. So again, initialize, text to wavetable. Because I paid for it, I have unlimited of these text to wavetables. So we could just say A-H-E-I, hit enter. So now we can have this cool pad if we go up. Let's kind of have this choir tone over it, so it's not just limited to text. You can kind of feed it letters if you want to. Any questions? Here at the end, it's a beast of a synth. We could try and see some of the sounds that I did.
Quick question. How
Yes.
many times can you do the text-to-speech for the free version?
The free version, 5 times, I believe,
Okay.
on 24 hours.
Oh, okay. So it's every day.
Yeah, it just resets every day.
Okay.
So you don't need to. I think I paid for it, and I can't remember. Let's check. It's called Vital Audio, and let's say here you can see this is free. The plus, I can't remember what that costs. Vital Plus, $25. I paid the professional, and I paid $80. So it's not much, but why I did it, because like this genius guy that's called Matt Titel made this for us for free. But I really appreciate his work because I use it almost every time I produce. So I want to appreciate what he's built and supported him on what he's doing. That's why I paid for it, not to have unlimited text to wavetables or how many wavetables you would get on top of that, because you could just take all the wavetables that you can find and put in here. You can just have as many. You can see the wavetable I have, like my own ones we made. Like I have so many, and you can just add a folder with wavetables in it. So you don't need to buy it because of that. You need to buy it because of supporting this guy. Also, if you're not into the sound design thing, you'll get a lot more preset though. But you can see I can do like cool basses. Why can I not play? Oh. Let's see, go signal sound. I made so many sounds in here. Bass. a lot of basses. I use it mostly for basses. But yeah, this is Vital. Cool. See you next Wednesday. And please drop by here in Copenhagen at Rumkraft. You're always welcome for a cup of coffee or having this lecture live. But see you next Wednesday.